3 times, because that's covering it.
It is 7 o'clock. Let us call the meeting of the South Island Village Council to order, and we will begin with the Lord's Prayer for those who wish to participate. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Let us join in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeffers. Here. Jones.
Here.
Sisky. Here. Sis. Here. Troiki.
Here.
Mashari. Here.
We have an additional item to the agenda at this point in time for the permission from the church to grant the village access to the property to install and use a pedestrian access to the cemetery. Also, the rest of the agenda was emailed to you. So do I have a motion to accept the agenda with the addition?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jeffers. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
Mashari. Aye. Sisky. Aye. Sis. Aye. Troiki.
Aye.
Motion passed.
The minutes were also emailed to you from the June 12th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions?
Make a motion to pass the minutes.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jeffers. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Sisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Troiki.
Aye.
Motion passed.
We have some visitors here tonight. Want to state anything at this point in time? Name, please, address.
Jolene Friel at 9950 Corridor Road, South Amherst.
Okay. And is the nature of your business, please?
I was just wondering if you have a emergency plan in order, because seeing that last week we had 6 tornadoes run through our state, and I was wondering if maybe you had something like that on the agenda. So, I belong to the United Methodist Church, and we would be able to feed people who are without electricity or unable to get food at the time. And I don't know about housing anyone, but you'd have to talk that out with the church.
Right.
So I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I think that offer that you have is very generous, that's for sure. If, and hopefully never when, something like that would happen, more than likely the County Emergency Management Association would take over and come in. We as being the first ones there, and of course Mr. Troiki can expound on that, we'd be the ones in control until emergency management came over and would take care of that. They would handle the logistics of it. And again, like I say, I think that's more than generous for the church itself to step up like that and have that available. If we can count on you probably for any other emergency if you're willing to do it for a tornado, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
So, like I say, I much appreciating being part of the community and having that available for us. Mrs.?
So I don't know, the mayor had thrown your name into the hat, so you may have, Mr. Trick, you may have some insight, but
And as far as the village goes and for council and our employees, et cetera, do we have something, Dave, that's actually written in terms of like what that is, what that looks like, what the resources available are, that we would be able to have a clear delineation of what is and what is not?
Well, again, I'd like to probably refer, with his experience in the emergency management, more than likely it would be a countywide effort, even if it happened just here in the village. So, Mr. Trickey, if you wish to expound on it, like I say.
The EMA does have policies and plans in place. If you were, willing to have the church as a shelter area or food or whatever, you would actually contact the EMA. They would then say to like the local government, okay, there's a, need, the residents here have no water, we have now been in contact with the church. The church says they are now open for shelter, and then that we would then tell the residents that. But pretty much, like the mayor said, the logistics of everything is handled through the EMA. And the fire department would also be very involved in it. I mean, it's the first person on scene that is your, in charge. But like if I was there, definitely would give it to the fire department. I mean, you always go to the most experienced person that's there. So,
Ms. Shard.
Just a clarification, Dave. I thought that the fire chief was identified as our person for emergency management, and that the village would be responsible for the emergencies, and they would reach out to EMS or EMA for contacts, like if they needed water or if they needed supplies or those type of things. But I thought the chief was the
depends on
person.
who's first on scene.
I know it's first on scene.
Right, but I mean,
after-
if the fire department's not there yet and we need immediate, thing, we
Right,
would contact somebody. And then when the fire department came in, they would take over.
Right.
They are in charge,
right,
of the scene. I mean,
right.
again.
I know that if whoever's here first is who's
Yeah.
in charge.
So it's kind of a,
Right.
I mean, and they might turn it over to somebody else, if the state comes in or something. I mean, that's all up to the fire department to do that.
I think a perfect example of that is what happened over in East Palestine.
So I have a sort of dual question. So, Mr. Crawford, do you know if within your SOPs for the fire department as, current interim chief, you guys have that
At this
in
time, I
place?
do not.
Okay. So I would sort of follow up to that, not sort of follow up. So I would, I'd like to make a recommendation that the fire chief and whoever would handle that from a village perspective, whether it's admin committee or otherwise, that we just have written documentation in terms of what the SOP and the process looks like when it comes to emergency management, that the fire department's on the same page as council and the village at large.
It's tricky.
That is covered partly in your NIMS training. If you take NIMS 100 and NIMS, I think I don't remember which one's what that the council should take, but it does explain about how to do this kind of transaction. So that's part of your documentation.
Ms. Machar.
So I'm gonna jump on this because I've had this conversation a couple of times. We had talked, Dave, about you doing something to help all of us get certified,
Yes, I can do training.
but we haven't heard anything about that. And I also spoke to Mr. Crawford the other day and asked if there was some way the fire department could help support getting us certified. I think there would only be
I mean, it's really anybody that
Maybe.
wants to.
anybody who
Do-
wants to, but
Yeah.
at 6 people, I know 5 people for sure it have to be, so. How would you want us to proceed with that? Should we go through the fire department or?
It's up to council. I mean, We never discussed it any further than I offered it, and that's as far as it went. I mean, that would be a safety committee, you know, pretty much what they would like to do.
Is it all online? So will it be just like a class we teach?
Just basically go over some of the ideas of it and then
Okay.
let you do what would be online and then do the test. And you do the test individually, but it's relatively simple.
I found it quite challenging. You said it's simple, I found it quite challenging.
He has background.
Yeah,
It wasn't fun.
but I have another comment too. For Mrs. Friel, I think it might be interesting that we determine what churches in the village have services that we could possibly utilize for our 1,500 population. And if there was an overflow from another area that needed help or something like that. So, did you? All right. So, I'll try to reach out to you and see what we can get coordinated tonight.
With the other churches.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Thanks for coming.
Mr. Trippy.
There's two things that can help with what you said. You can do a tabletop exercise where you pretend like there's an accident and, you know, you would invite people from the church and kind of tell them, you know, how things are going to happen, what's going to happen. And that's something the fire department would probably, you know, spearhead. Or you can have an actual exercise where you basically say there's some type of disaster. You appoint people to go to here and there. And then, again, the fire department would take care of that. But you would get the EMA involved in this. They would help you.
Thank you for your concern. Good point brought up. Any other visitor at this point in time? Okay. Moving on to my report. I went down to Columbus for the mayor's conference. As most conferences, you know, they have presentations. And of course, you learn a lot more by just some of the idle chatter that goes around from the other people that have shown up. But we had a speaker from Jobs Ohio who more or less talked about, you know, what they have to offer. We had a person from the Department of Development, which I thought was kind of interesting. It was a good presentation. And what the government is doing now, our people down in Columbus and the governor, they are more or less setting up programs that we can apply for funds for and things such as that. The thing that I find troubling is that we talk about the local government funds, and you know, at this point in time, they're giving out 1.67% of those tax monies that they get back to the communities. With the new budget coming out, it's going to be 1.7. So it's going to be a little bit of an increase, not much. Of course, everybody wants more. They want maybe 2.5 or more. At one time, the state gave back to each community 3.68%. But again, what they're saying now with these programs, instead of we giving you money and you deciding how to spend it, they're saying you have to go through a certain program. One of them, and of course, they gave a presentation on this, was law enforcement, recruitment, retention, and training. I'm saying, well, that's fine and well. There's a few $1 billion thrown into that thing. It's nice to know that you're going to be trained. It's nice to know that, you know, you're going to try to retrain them, and it's nice to know that you're going to recruit them. There's nothing in there for operations. So you're going to go out and get these people, train them, try to keep them, but you have no money to put them out on the road and do their job. I find that very frustrating. You know, I don't know if you do or not, but I see that. Another speaker was on cybersecurity. It was the same speaker we had last year who I think recommended, yeah, if you have a password, it should be something like 27 characters. The one thing that he came up with that I thought was interesting, you know, we have Matt sitting right here with his iPad. We have Mr. Jones went with his computer. I don't know if, what's her name? Who do we get our computer services from there? Holland. If they have anything in place, because if they're tapping into our network, those computers should be also covered, because they can bring a virus into our network just by being a guest. That's the one thing that I came away with that one on that. So I think we have to do a little more research to find out if Holland does offer that, or somebody sitting out in the parking lot taps into it. So there's that. Was another interesting conversation
It
with,
should be on guest. It should be on the guest network, which is separate from the admin network. So they can't get into.
but again, I think it'd be worthwhile checking. Yeah. The other one was about housing development, where they talked about TIFs. The fellow is from Grove City, and he brought up about, we hired a consultant now who's going to be looking at our zoning and maybe changing our zoning and maybe adding some additional residences. What he's saying with that is, and I do have the PowerPoint presentation for that, whereas it's nice to have this growth and development and everything else like that. The thing you have to look at also is your outlay and the cost that's going to cost you for that growth and development. Not only just bringing the tax money in, but again, over the 30 years or so that this development is going on, to get that taken care of. Like I say, it was, for me, it was a little difficult to try to follow and whatever have you, but he made it so that, even though there's tax money being generated, it will stay there to help with the development, and eventually then you take over. So that, all that money just doesn't, leave. Okay? I always talked about the law enforcement, and that the one I was interested in, and a couple other people too, was where we're supposed to have somebody talk about infrastructure. Yes. And what it's about was people from the Ohio Department of Transportation. They're sitting down and saying now with the fuel efficient vehicles and the electric vehicles, the gas tax is going down. The cost of maintaining roads is going up. And they're trying to look at a happy medium of how to try to level this off. Whether it be the mileage you drive, the type of car you drive, horsepower of your car, everything else such as that. I think that's more of an ODOT problem than it is our problem at this point in time. Right? So that's it. And probably one of the most beneficial ones that they have during these, and I don't know if when the fiscal officer goes to hers or you go to your clerk's meetings, they have roundtable discussions and bringing up about what people like to have. The one young lady from Belleville, Ohio, which is outside of Mansfield, was alarmed that ODOT came along and says, well, there's a state route running through your town, there's 2 of them, and you're responsible for them. That means maintenance, repair, and everything else such as that, signage. And of course, we know what that means too. But all they're going to do is maybe plow the snow off of them, and every 7 to 10 years, they will resurface them. But the issue is, there's other people in other parts of the state that sat back and says, they do everything. We had a little bit of a crater, I guess, over there that was on 113 where the driveway to the school is. I called ODOT and they says, that's your responsibility. So what we're looking for, or what the Ohio Municipal League is going to do too, is look into some sort of consistency throughout the state for ODOT. To find out if, every community is going to be responsible for that, if they're not going to be responsible for that. But, like I said, consistency is that. The other thing is they wanted to talk about how to talk to your state legislators to get things done. Well, it was a bunch of lobbyists, and they're sitting down and saying, well, if you want to talk to your state legislator, you hire a lobbyist, which I think is, small communities like that, we can't afford that. It's not what I expected to hear. I thought they were going to give us some really insight and whatever have you. Our lobbyists, to me, really don't have a clue of what's going on a local level. You can see that with the state budget, what's going on right now. I'll drift into that too. The state budget, you know, still is in flux of what they want to do. I don't think they know what they want to do. But again, I'm very disappointed that, you know, the local government fund is only going up to that 3/100ths of a point. Give me the money. I think we here know what we need for our community. And if we have that money, we can serve our community and our residents the best. Don't sit down and say, well, we got this program here, we have these programs there. A lot of those programs don't apply to us. And probably the biggest disappointment is when you go to one of these is Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Toledo, Youngstown. Nobody from a big city or a major city goes to these things. And it was brought up by one fellow who represents a community out in Western Ohio, all of 567 people, that he goes from it seems like when the state budget comes out, or when it comes to funding, it's always from the top down. He goes, why don't they do it once or twice where it goes from the bottom up and give the small people something first before they start taking everything towards the big people? So that was that. Okay. So much for that. You know, if you want to know a little bit more in detail, I'll be glad to sit down and discuss it with you.
I have a question, Dave.
Please.
So just to maximize, obviously, your time going down to these conferences, and I think it's important for us to have key takeaways. Were you able to get a list, or are you able to get a list of the programs that you spoke of as your first bullet point, the programs that have dollars available?
That would be for the Department of Development. They're the ones who probably have there's 37 different sub-departments in the Department of Development, which we should tap into. Which we're going to be working on with this consultant. I will discuss that with her and see if she knows of those too, so that we can hopefully, you know, get a piece of the pie, or at least some crumbs.
Well,
Keep on going.
so I would ask that in the near term, since the consultant pieces come in a little bit later in the year, that in the near term, since you went to the meeting, that whether it's the organizer, I'm sure that they gave some sort of contact from this program development, whatever, reaching out directly to them and seeing, you know, if they're able to facilitate either A, a conversation, and or B, a comprised list of the dollars and the programs that are available. And then whether we give it to the Community and Economic Development Committee, or, you know, some of these different vision boards and things like that, that, you know, we can see what those dollars and cents are that are available, and potentially leverage those dollars that are available for our community in the near term.
Sure, can do.
Thank you.
And of course, the other thing is the holding tank. You know, we're still waiting for the permit to install. The engineer is working on that to get that to him as quickly as possible, so we can get that taken care of. That is my report. Moving on now to the law director.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sorry about that. Fiscal officer.
Payment listing for June 8th, 22nd was emailed, as well as the financial report for June. Were there any questions? Yep, you got it. Tax budget. Any other questions on the tax budget? Okay. There is an agreement in our resolutions. Yes. Yes, for the Buckeye Bank ICS agreement, and what that is it's an insured cash sweep. So we're going to restructure the accounts. We have a money market account that if we need to transfer money into our checking account for whatever, we can. But it's not making near as much interest. So we looked at some investments, and the insured cash sweep is actually highly recommended by the auditor because it's just, it earns a higher interest rate. I know it's like 4 something. And we have about 1.3 million sitting in that. And then it's easier to balance, and so that's the agreement that we're gonna sign tonight. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. The McBee paving agreement. I do want to apologize again. We reached out to the engineer and said we had the bid opening, they were the lowest and qualified bidder, but we did not have an actual agreement, and the engineer promised to get it to us before our meeting. We just didn't think it would be today. So that's why it came late. But I just wanted to have that ready so that we can at least get scheduled, and there's a pre-con meeting that's going to be scheduled either this week or next week for the contractor. Get things going on for him. And that is all for me unless anyone has any questions. Oh, one last thing that's not on the agenda. Our audit officially started today.
Anything else for the fiscal side? Moving on, records clerk?
The only thing I have is starting to work on the 2024 calendar. If boards and council committees could let me know by our August 14th meeting when you would prefer your committee and board meetings to be in times. And then what's your thought, Halloween parade and trick or treat? This year we have it that it's all on the same day, but it has previously been where it's separate. For 2024, the parade would be on the 29th, which is the Sunday, and actual Halloween is the 31st. You guys want to keep it all as one?
Fiscal officer?
I have a question. I think you have the dates wrong.
Yeah.
No, 2024.
Yeah.
The 29th and 31st of this year.
Yeah. Oh,
So it's going to be the 27th.
Okay, sorry, I looked at it wrong. Okay, yeah, well, then the 27th and 20, Sunday and Thursday, or all on Sunday?
What's Sunday's date?
27th.
I make a motion to have it all on Sunday, the 27th.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Sis?
Can we repeat those dates? I was trying to.
Sunday is the 27th,
Okay.
and Thursday is the 31st.
Okay.
Continue.
So is the fire department still involved in that?
I'm supposed to talk with them, I was waiting for this.
Okay. Because I think that would be, we probably want to have them involved in that conversation, I would assume, picking the date. Right? If I heard.
2024.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because 2023 is already set, right?
Ms. Charlie?
So, I spoke with, Chief Frazier. He says he has to schedule his staff, paid employees. He asked that it be on Sunday. That's why I made a motion. And involved, the fire department is generally involved, but that is gonna come afterwards, only because the police department is paid.
Got it.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Shari?
Aye.
Sisky?
Aye.
Sis?
Aye.
Chouwaki?
Aye.
Motion passed. That's it.
Thank you. Moving on to the department's service. discuss at that point for them? There's no discussion, we'll move on now to fire.
I have nothing to say, Mayor. I didn't realize I was supposed to submit it earlier. I'll have a last month report, and this month report next month.
Very good. Thank you.
I have a question. Was anybody able to make it to the Tuesday thing? Sorry to call it a thing, I don't remember what it was for, but was anybody able to make it to the Tuesday fire
Training?
department training?
Training.
I didn't know what exactly it was.
I think Michelle's gonna report under safety.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anxiously, we will wait your report. Moving on to cemetery, they are going to have a new clerk starting this Wednesday. We'll begin training with the previous clerk. So we have that at this one time. So that's probably the news there. She will be an independent contractor. So it'll be a little bit different than having, she'd be an employee, but as an independent contractor. Roxanne Blair. Roxanne has quite a bit of municipal experience on the county level, so looking forward to having her. I am definitely. Okay. Moving next on, anything else as far as the cemetery?
Nothing to report except the thing we'll be talking about later with what we were emailed with their parking.
The walkway.
Yeah, the walkway.
Moving on to the SABPA.
So because we had Juneteenth on the Monday, the 19th, the SABPA had their meeting on Thursday, the 22nd. I was not present at that time, so I don't have anything to report out. I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if you were there or not and have anything to share.
Yes, I do. We completed the hydrant flushing. They're still asking about a vehicle from the police department, and as far as I know, the police department is not going to relinquish the vehicle. So
Is not? Is that what you
it's
said?
not.
Okay.
That's what I was told. And with the fire hydrant flushing, the report is there's 2 that are leaking that were turned off. There's 1 that's out of service. 1 has, the nuts are rusty, which I have no idea what that means. And there's 1 that is hard to open. The report was given, like I said, to the BPA, and at this point in time, they have not made a decision of how to correct those things. The other thing too is the temporary clerk, if you want to call it that, or she is actually the clerk right now, has submitted a letter of resignation that her last day will be the 13th of July. The clerk that she replaced is, of course, this could be verified by the fiscal officer, is supposedly out to the 1st of August. So I don't know if that will change or not. So that's what we're at.
The first week in August.
Dave, I have a question.
Please.
So, I'm sorry, I don't know if I misunderstood you or misheard you, but you said that on those hydrants that they had issues with, let's just call them some of the parts,
Mhm.
that they didn't have a solution on how to resolve that?
It was given as a report from the flushing of the hydrants and no action was taken. Other than accepting the report that the hydrants were flushed.
Are these hydrants marked?
That, as far as I know, they are not.
There's a way of finding out where they're located at, so
If you wish to, I can give you that information. Ms.
I
Michelle.
think the requirement is they have to be black bagged or the top.
Mrs.
So I'm happy to, as liaison, to send an email over to the SABPA and just ask, based on the report that the mayor gave, what the status is on 2 things. One, that, the leaky one, and then the other ones that we know what those are, and then any of the ones that had issues with the pieces parts. My assumption is, fair assumption or not, that there should be some sort of list that's available. But then also, to Jeannie's point, is what's the requirement? Does it have to be bagged? Does it have to be marked? But just to make sure that our safety services, know exactly what those are and then what the action is moving forward, right? If we have ones that we can't get open or whatever, that's causing a potential hazard. So I will send that, I'll send that over tonight.
Can I just request that it be first initially sent to the water operator, seeing he knows exactly what should be done?
Okay.
I mean, yeah, copy EPA, but the operator should know which ones we get them marked.
Anything else as far as SADPA? Moving on now to our committees, buildings and grounds.
I have nothing at this time.
Street sidewalk service.
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to the audit finance.
So, I'm at the 13th, I'm trying to see if we had a meeting since then. No. Okay. We had I sent everybody the minutes for the finance, we had a finance meeting first, to go over the tax budget and the changes, or that Michelle put on there, and then that was followed by the audit. And there was only just one request on there when we were going through there, if there was something that when, do you get a list from the fire chief of what firefighters need to be paid, like, just something, so if we pull one of their pay stubs, we have something to say, okay, yeah, Joe was paid this many hours.
It is actually, all the payroll for the department is attached to the fire chief's pay stub.
Okay,
So
all right,
if you were to look at Dennis's and look it over,
Oh,
the
okay.
list of, and how much each person was getting is on the back of his.
okay, then, all right, I'll
Because he's
look at it.
responsible for the whole payroll.
Okay, all right, yeah, because we just pulled one out and then we just got to thinking, we checked their status as the rate of pay they were paid, but we were just wanting something to look at. So, okay,
I'll pull one for you to look at.
okay. And that was it. The next meeting for audit is July 11th, and I haven't heard if we need a finance meeting then.
Should just be on.
Should just be audit. July 11th at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. That's it.
Thank you for those reports that were emailed. And we report now. Okay, moving on to ordinance.
Just the meeting of July 13th, same meeting, different time. 9 a.m. is the new meeting time, so if you'd like to attend, 9 a.m. here at Town Hall.
Yeah, Mayor's Court, and 11. So just so you know.
Yeah, no worries.
It'll be in.
It's all good. We stay in the zone, we stay focused.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Okay. Under safety now?
I have two things. We had an emergency safety committee meeting on Friday, June 23rd. It went from 4 to 5:55, and the entire meeting was in executive session, so I'm unable to disclose anything that was discussed at that time. The other thing that I wanted to report on was that Jeannie and I went to the fire department's training on Tuesday night. Was it hose training? Is that what it was? Yes. And it was probably a good almost 2.5 hours, I think. And sitting back and watching them work and them work together, I encourage anybody to go and watch them. They put a lot of effort in, all of them. Jean, did you have anything else you wanted to add to it?
Nothing other than Mr. Crawford did say that the calendar that was sent out is going to change.
Yeah, there's some changes. We no longer do EMS on Tuesday nights. I've got a lot of young firefighters coming up, and we felt that they needed more training And we'll go down to Amherst on the third Thursday of the month and do administrating down there with them.
So we'll look for that in the calendar.
Yeah.
I found it very informative, and it just gave me a good feeling to know that they practice, and I got to see what they practice with and the different things it was the new fire truck, and they were working on how they should pull the hose down and things that you don't think about. So it was very interesting, and I really appreciate their openness to our being here.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. You can see the ambulance report that we have gotten from Life Care Ambulance as far as the number of calls that we've had. Also, we had a meeting of the Sandstone Ambulance District. Fire Chief was there with me. For years and years, they've been providing free service. Not anymore. It's going to change. You know, anytime if you want to add something, Chief, you're more than welcome to. It's going to cost, what they figured, service is going to cost $183,000 a year, divided among Amherst Township, and the village. $67 per call, which they figured. This way they will have a dedicated ambulance for this district. But again, if the ambulance is dedicated and it's answering a call in Amherst Township, and Amherst needs it, they're gonna have to pull a backup from somewhere. Lorraine, Elyria, Vermillion, whatever. They can provide another ambulance to be dedicated, so we have 2 ambulances. That would be an additional $400,000. The contracts that they're looking at this point in time, if it's a 3-year contract, over the 3-year contract, they're looking at $549,000. If it's a 5-year contract, it's $915,000. You know, the calls from 2022, Amherst had 2,026, the township had 522, the village 130. So therefore, our cost would probably be around $9,000 to $10,000. Anything else to add, Chief?
That's about right.
So I have 2 things real quick. So the first is when you're saying our cost for ambulance, are all of those costs, do they directly get paid, I guess, by the village? Or would they be incurred by whoever as a person, let's just say, is receiving the benefit of that call?
My understanding is the village is to pick up the bill. The way they talked, because when Amherst was talking about they were going to go to their mayor, and they got a cough up like $179,000 themselves.
Okay, so as like, if an ambulance comes to an emergency site, for me, I don't want an emergency, but if it was for me, as a resident, I would have 0 responsibility or liability to
No.
pay for that?
You will get a bill.
Okay,
The insurance company will, and they will bill you what the insurance company don't do.
okay,
But the problem they're having is they're not collecting money back like they used to from insurance companies. He said out of a call, they're looking to get $27 to $30 what they recruit out of a call. And it's just, they can't work this way anymore. So they're actually putting the cost on the villages or the town, or the townships to helps reduce their costs or their loss.
okay. So this is essentially our sole option?
Well, at this point in time, you can say maybe they're the only game in town. For us to start an ambulance service, I think Mr. Crawford's been here for 26 years. At one time, we did have an ambulance parked here, but again,
First responder unit.
it was the first responder unit.
Right.
So we were fortunate to have that, but again, you know, the only other one at this point in time is Southern Lorraine County Ambulance. And I don't know if they want to come up this far because they usually handle the southern part of county and northern part of Ashland County. for us to start a service such as that, phenomenal cost would be, or the cost would be phenomenal. They are trained. One of the things that we heard too is, of course, I had no input on it, and neither did our fire chief, where the other two entities sat back and says the amount of, or the type of care, and the amount of care that they're giving is really substandard. But again, the people are being pushed to the limit. They're being pulled every which way. They're very highly trained people. They're good people, but they're really, and they came back and said they hired, what, over 30 people in the last month? So, it's that.
These two had their hand up first.
Okay.
Just a question, so you said asking who else provides this service, but if we went to another company just to come out and do the village, is that probably not gonna be more than it is with going with this because they're doing two others right in the area? You know what I'm saying? Is that, or something you're just not sure of?
If you just, let's say, go to Oberlin, the distance from Amherst to Oberlin, the South Amherst, the distance from Oberlin here is actually Amherst is closer. They run one squad out of there. If that squad's tied up, who are we gonna get? Now there's a lot of problems between the Life Care, the Southern Lorraine County, and there's competition there. And so is Life Care going to say, okay, we'll mutual aid take the call for you? So now we got to bring a truck out of Amherst, Lorraine. So we're talking another 20 minutes to get a squad. Half hour, minute. On full rest, you can't do that.
Yeah, so what I'm saying though is basically, you said the price that it's gonna be for the ambulance service going forward, and someone here had asked, well, is that our only option? If we go with it, what I'm saying is if we go with one of those other options, it's probably gonna cost us even more, right?
Well, you could contact them and see what they would do.
I just was wondering if because they're doing two others right here, are we getting like a better rate kind of, I guess is the way to say it. That's all.
Well, the thing I think you have to look at too is that, you don't have a lot of companies getting into this because of the expense of it and the liability and everything else such as that. We realize, Chief Crawford just said, response time, that's the key to everything. Whether it be a fire, whether it be an EMA, or, even an NVA, that type of thing. It would be nice if there was more to give it competition, but one of the issues that you have, it is a private enterprise. And with being a private enterprise, they do not have to open their books. They have entered into a contract probably within the last year or so, you can fill me in on this, with Vermilion, Elyria, Lorraine, they all get billed. Or they all have to pay for any place that they serve.
So have we been paying historically?
No,
Okay,
the
so
party's
then,
over.
okay, so then what fund would this come out of? Would it be village general or would it be, okay, not fire? Okay,
Fire is general.
okay.
Ms. Machado.
Okay, so a couple of questions. This is with Sandstone, right? Do we have a contract with them?
Yes, we do.
How long is it for?
If I'm not mistaken,
It ends this year.
it ends this year.
It ends this year. So who would be tasked with finding other options that could be documented that council could choose from?
We go to the safety committee.
And did I understand you to say that the current services are substandard because they're pushed to the limit?
Well, that's the opinion of the other two entities. We did not chime in. I've never seen them in action, so I cannot evaluate. And again, I am not in the position to evaluate. Amherst has, quite a few paramedics on their squad, are on their fire department and have seen them in action, so.
I ran with North Central EMS for 16 years. I watched the paramedics that I work with work 36-hour shifts. Be off for 12 hours and work another 36-hour shift. That was the only way they made any money. They had to work the overtime to get any money. But they weren't paid. They're not paid $30, $40 an hour. Most of the medics were making like $12 to $15 an hour. They can't live on that. So they keep working all these hours, and next you know what, they're burned out, and they move on. The amount of people that I worked with for those 16 years, it was just a revolving door. You lose 4 or 5 medics this week, you get 4 or 5 back in. The next you know, you lose 3 or 4 in the year. They come back, just constantly bumping. All they do is run.
So my one last question is, I need clarification on this payment process and charging the resident and submitting to their insurance. So the village is gonna pay the bill, say there's 10 calls here, we're gonna pay for 10 calls. Then who submits it to the resident's insurance company?
The Life Care will submit the bill to the insurance company.
And then they'll refund us what we paid them?
No.
Or
Fiscal
My guess is it's gonna be similar to, like, think about how the Overland Court assesses. Whatever the cost of their,
operations.
operations is, and I'm gonna assume this is after they've been paid by insurance, that is gonna be divvied up by the percentage of participation. So if Amherst has 30% of the calls, then they're gonna get 30% of the assessment. We have 5%, we'll get 5% of the assessment. So it's probably a net assessment.
okay, so we would need to know this before the end of the year.
But here's the thing, if it's a private company, they aren't required to open their books so we can verify that what we're seeing is a bottom line.
Yes, yes.
So I happen to have a friend who's on the board for the Sandstone thing, whatever this is called, Sandstone Ambulance. And I called him the other day for something else, and first thing he says is, "Are you calling me about the contract?" I said, "I don't have any idea what you're talking about, but I feel like we probably should have a conversation." Anyways, what he did say is that he said if we had any questions, I said, "I have a council meeting on Monday, so I'm sure I'll have questions after that." But what he did say was that if we have any questions, that we can feel free to contact him directly. He's happy to answer any questions. Obviously that he's an attorney, so he knows his parameters. But so he did say that, if we do want to have any further conversations or ask any further questions on any of this stuff, he said we're free to go ahead and do that, so.
Was that the attorney for Life Care?
I don't know, he said he was on the board, so that's all he told me. He was on the board for Sandstone.
Because we have representatives from Amherst Township, City of Amherst, and the village. And none of them that I know are an attorney. So I'm assuming that the attorney that was there, and the chief there can verify, was for the ambulance, just the ambulance company itself.
Well, but either way, we have a contact, someone
So,
that's
yeah.
offered, so we have a contact.
Like I say, it was nice to have, it's almost essential that you do have an ambulance service. And we're very fortunate for all these years that it didn't cost us anything, but the cost of everything is going up. Since we're all consumers, we all know that. We'll now move on to the interim fire chief.
So I would like to move to recognize Mr. Crawford as the interim fire chief, to be compensated as the interim fire chief in the ordinance that was recently passed until a final selection of chief has been made.
I'll second.
Any kind of discussion on that? Please.
I just have a question. Mr. Crawford, how long have you been on the fire department? When did you
35
start?
years.
35 years. So I want to thank you for your service. And hopefully we'll get the process moving along. We'll get it taken care of.
Any other discussion? We have a motion by Ms. Mashari and a second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Ashari.
Aye.
Seiski.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next thing on the item is the fire lieutenant probation.
It's me too. I don't know that I need to make this as a motion though, because I think it was already addressed, but I'll go ahead and do it. I'm gonna make a motion to change the probationary period on the letters that Kyle Urich and Andrew Lowry received in their promotion to lieutenant, because the letter said it was 30 days, which is in error and not compliant to their SOPs or the village's handbook. So I just wanted to make that correction to a year.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Ashari.
Aye.
Seiski. Aye. Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Personnel files.
I'd like to move to have all fire personnel files be maintained by the Human Resource Department person no later than July 31st of 2023.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Ashari.
Aye.
Seiski.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Do you need mine?
Yeah. Thank you.
Moving on to community and economic development.
So I just have something that doesn't necessarily have to do with South Amherst, but I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to go down to the Sandstone Village last weekend in Amherst, but they put on a really incredible event, Taste of History. They had reenactment. And I know we have a great historical society here, but the Amherst Historical Society is also doing a really great job to showcase Amherst and South Amherst and everything that went on. So if anybody ever has an opportunity to go down there and take a look at the village and go inside the buildings, I would highly recommend it. They do a lot for both communities in terms of promoting the history. So I just wanted to share that with anybody in case anyone was interested. And then they're also doing a lot to preserve the history. So if anybody's looking for a volunteer opportunity, they've got, or ever needs any sort of historical records. I know they work also with our historical society, but they have so much stuff. So I don't have an official report, but I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any other economic or community? Then we will move on to administrative.
Nothing this time.
Okay. We will now move on to ordinances. If there's any discussion, or rather any objection rather, to reading them by title only. Could we do title only then?
Okay, ordinance number 1770-23, final reading, an ordinance fixing the rate of compensation for elected and certain appointed officials.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call please.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Seiski.
Aye.
Sis. Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed. Ordinance number 1772-23 to be passed as an emergency, an ordinance repealing existing South Amherst Codified Ordinance Chapter 1305, Section .02, and enacting new South Amherst Codified Ordinance, Chapter 1305, Section .02, building fee schedule and declaring an emergency.
I move to suspend the rules and pass as an emergency.
Second.
All those in favor of passing? Roll call for ordinance number 1772-23.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Sisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed.
I move to pass ordinance number 1772-23.
That's done.
Hmm. Any discussion? Roll call for passing ordinance 1772-23 as an emergency.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Sisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, resolution number 698-23, Charles E. Harris and Associates Incorporated Hinkle Notes Contract, second reading. Resolution number 699-23, Ashland Consulting Incorporated Community Visioning Sessions and Zoning Code Revisions, second reading. Resolution number 700-23 to be passed as an emergency, ICS Deposit Placement Agreement with Buckeye Bank.
I move to suspend the rules and pass as an emergency.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Sisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed.
I move to pass resolution number 700-23.
Second.
Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Sisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed. Resolution number 701-28 to pass as an emergency, agreement with MECB paving for 103 and 105 West Main Street parking lot paving.
I move to suspend the rules and pass as an emergency.
Second.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Jeffers.
Excuse me, can we have a discussion? Oh, we got
Not
to,
yet.
not yet, okay, I'm sorry.
Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Sisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Okay. I move to pass resolution number 701-23.
Second.
Discussion?
In the contract on page C-2 at the very bottom, it says the contractor's gonna be paid, for actual quantity of units installed. And the contract price is $84,938.75 based on the estimates of quantities shown and subject to any addition I'm taking. Where is it shown? What's it in? What's it on? How many are the units?
It was in the bid. It was in the bid specs.
Okay,
So in the bid specs, there's a sheet that says how much they anticipate putting in.
okay. And so what if
I'm sorry.
it's more units than this 84,000?
There's
Contingency
a
fee?
contingency amount in the bid.
Okay, all right.
We have a motion and a second for resolution 701-23. Can I have a roll call, please?
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mashari.
Aye.
Sisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, so, let's see what that was, that one. Resolution number 702-23 Board of Cemetery Trustees Agreement with United Methodist Episcopal Church for the pedestrian walkway, and this is as an emergency.
I move to suspend the rules and pass as an emergency.
Second.
Move to pass resolution number 702. Oh, roll call. I'm sorry.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Machiari.
Aye.
Heisky. Sis.
Aye.
Chorky.
Aye.
Motion passed.
I see that pen starting to wave, you know, that's why I hold back.
Now I'm gonna move to pass resolution number 702-23. Wait for that discussion.
Second.
Now we can have a discussion.
Okay, so this is not an easement, this is just an agreement. And I thought that this walkway had to be done by June 30th, or the money had to be returned.
You have to enter into a contract by June 30th.
How would you do that?
Again, the cemetery board, you know, has already approved for Go Green to put it in.
You can't enter a contract without us passing a resolution or ordinance.
I'd have to go
Which
back
won't
and
be
look at
by June 30th.
I believe to the agreement, it needs to be encumbered or.
Okay, at our last meeting, Andrew told us that it had to be, that it had to be completed by June 30th.
I think that
I
is
didn't know
correct. I think it just
Okay.
has to be committed. I think is the term that they use in the, I can't figure out the word. It's gonna be committed.
We'll clarify that. Any other discussion? By the way, the church is supposed to meet on a Wednesday to discuss that also, and are accepting agreement. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, please.
And just for clarification, they still need to present plans to buildings and grounds.
No, we did clarify that and said that they could proceed as long as they got permission to use the parking lot.
I thought that was the first half that they had to do, and they had to come and give us.
I'd have to check the minutes again, but to the best of my knowledge, we gave them the go-ahead under the contingency that they did this.
I was thinking though, maybe though, in that they were supposed to come back and tell us like exactly how far off of, I don't know, corner, building, corner, parking lot, whatever it
It
is.
says it in
That's in the
That's it in,
agreement. It's in the agreement.
that they were supposed to come out instead of just saying it's going, you know.
Right. The law director do that.
on the corner of the property.
The law director do that all up the agreement. Thank you for doing that.
Cemetery, you're welcome.
But that it was all on cemetery property, but it starts at the corner of the parking lot.
We gave them a do not exceed amount, if I remember correctly.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Machiari.
Aye.
Heisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chorky.
Aye.
Motion passed. Appropriation ordinance number 302.
I move to pass board appropriation ordinance number 302.
Second.
Discussion. If you could throw this on.
This is to, just as a reminder, this is to move the remaining funds that are in the Annis Road North Phase 2 road project. That was the village commitment, 22,000 into capital projects fund that pays the loans.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Machiari. Aye. Heisky.
Aye.
Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
We also need to vote on the 2024 budget.
You didn't put that in the agenda. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
All committed, can we do it now?
Oh, boy.
Well, that's budget quantum.
Whoa.
Put it under miscellaneous.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the 2024 tax budget. There is no number to it. So I guess I would need a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion that we pass the 2024 tax budget.
Second.
Discussions. I don't talk about it anymore. Sorry.
You guys get the does just as bad as she looked at.
Hearing no discussion.
Okay, Jeffers.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Machiari. Aye. Heisky. Aye. Sis.
Aye.
Chouwaki.
Aye.
Budget passes.
There goes your pay raise. Okay. Now we will move to another miscellaneous item, if there's any.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Scott said that? Okay. Okay, we